On your Thursday episode of Locked On Raptors, Toronto avoids a calamitous collapse in Indiana, and Scottie Barnes looks like a man evolved.
You are Locked On Raptors, your daily Toronto Raptors podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, what's going on? And welcome to another episode of Locked On Raptors, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, and now the #1 sports podcast network in the land. It is Thursday, January the 15th, and I'm your host, Sean Woodley. I've been covering the Raptors now for 12 seasons on various platforms. You can follow my work over on Blue Sky. You can find the show on Instagram. You can join us in the Locked On Raptors Discord server, 100% free to join. As always, great place. Come talk ball among friends. Be part of our listener community. It's a great place, especially as the other corners of the internet become less and less useful or ethically viable. Come hang out in the Discord during games. It's a lot of good fun with none of the garbage underbelly. Just some people with some wild takes that you got to shoot down sometimes. You know who you are if you're listening or watching right now. Let's get into it. On today's show, we were talking about the Raptors winning 115-101 in a game they nearly pissed away down the stretch as the Pacers' zone defense flummoxed the Raptors, as zone defenses have often flummoxed the Raptors this season. We will talk about that a little bit more later on in the show when we get into the good, the bad, and the We're also going to talk about Gradey Dick. Big swinging, absolutely pendulous in this game. 21 points. 11 boards, first career double-double, one of the best games he's played as a pro, probably his best game this season, or at least since the opening night of the season, and we'll get into why he continues to be an object of endless fascination for me. But I do want to start and throw some flowers at the feet of one Scottie Barnes. And yesterday we did our podcast talking about the big takeaways from the first half of the year, and neither Zulfi or I on that show really brought up Scottie Barnes. He came up tangentially in relation to other guys, but you know, it felt almost too chalk for me to get into Scottie's play this season being one of the big takeaways from the year because it's just been so present every single night. He's just been a vastly different player, a more impactful player, a more well-rounded player. And it just felt, again, like a chalk answer to be like, well, Scottie Barnes is playing like a monster, and this is the takeaway from the first half. Of course it is. Like, the Raptors are not 25-17 right now if Scottie Barnes has not taken this leap as an overall agent of winning. And I just wanted to highlight him to start the show because I thought his game last night, it wasn't his biggest point total ever. He's had bigger assist games. He's had bigger sort of gaudy defensive stats. It was a game against the Indiana Pacers, who are 9-32 now. They're not a very good team, though they had won 3 games in a row coming in. And I do think in years past, this is a game that the Raptors maybe just kind of duff, right? Down 5 guys of their own. There's like a baked-in excuse to not look very good. And the Pacers playing pretty well at home. You thought, okay, maybe this is a bit of a letdown game for the Raptors after an emotionally charged couple games against the Philadelphia 76ers. But no, Scottie Barnes was not going to let that happen. And with no Immanuel Quickley in the lineup, he was tasked with running the offense a little more than he has throughout this season. I think it's been to his benefit, by and large, that he's had less of a creation burden. We've talked about this plenty, but in this game last night, I thought he was right at home with the ball in his hands. And it wasn't necessarily like point Scottie. It wasn't the sort of thing we saw last year where Scottie Barnes would have the ball at the top of the arc and try to probe and figure out a way to drive into the teeth of the defense and bounce off a couple of bodies and not be able to turn the corner on guys and lean too heavily on the pull-up 3 when things weren't working. This was just like a totally in command, controlled, creative game from Scottie Barnes where he kind of took all the stuff that we know, like he kind of worked on last year, the stuff that he refined, the stuff that we learned wasn't where he was going to butter his bread as well, and just kind of had this very condensed, streamlined, concise plan of attack. And I thought it was wildly impressive. You know, there was the, dribble handoff stuff, working from the top of the arc, picking out cutters that we know he's very good at. There was the using inverted pick and roll with Gradey Dick in particular, setting a ton of flare screens for Scottie in this one. And, Scottie just finding a way to make things happen out of that, right? Getting downhill, using the shooting gravity of as Gradey as he kind of ghosted over to the wing to get into the teeth of the defense, got a couple of dunks out of it. And then there was a lot of just Scottie Barnes using his ass to get to spots on the floor, whether it was getting an early seal and getting an entry pass for a post up that drew extra attention, or it was him just kind of realizing, okay, I have the ball here on the perimeter. I'm just going to bury my butt into a dude and get into the spot I want and draw attention that way. I think this game really showcased Scottie's complete understanding of his own personal gravity and the way his just force, the way teams have to load up on him can affect the offense for the entire team. It was just a very aware performance, I think, by Scottie. And I was just wildly impressed. Again, this is a game that in the past you might have seen them just kind of throw it out the window and you lose and you move on. Oh, they were injured, whatever. No, he just wasn't having that in this game. Last year was so much about experimentation, right? Figuring out where he could get to, where were his best spots, what wasn't he good at. And the way he's applied all of that to this season, and I think in particular last night, it was such a great example of it, operating without a guard to lean on. Jamal Shead was there, didn't have a particularly effective offensive game, without Immanuel Quickley, without RJ Barrett, having to shoulder a pretty heavy burden offensively. I think we just saw the refinement, the evolution of Scottie Barnes on full display. And it was just a great example of the thing that's been true of Scottie all season long, where you look at the numbers and it's okay, he's more efficient, sure, but the numbers aren't exactly popping off the page compared to what he's done in the past. In fact, there's fewer assists and the points are down a smidge and whatnot. This was such a clear example of what I think has been the case with Scottie all season long. He's been such a you gotta watch the games guy to really appreciate him this year. And when you watch him, it just hits you over the head that he's a totally different player. And I think that was so on display last night. There were other guys who contributed, obviously. Colin Murray-Boyles doing his thing. Jamal Shead, I thought defensively in this game was quite strong. Hit that big shot late. We'll talk about later on. Brandon Ingram had 30 points in this game, but I do think those 30 points were way more a byproduct of Scottie Barnes' command of the offense than they were Brandon Ingram kind of taking and asserting control over things himself, right? Everything flowed through Scottie in this game in such a beautiful way. And both of those guys were awesome. There's both played like all-stars. It was fantastic to see, but I think Scottie just continues to hammer home. This team flows through me on both ends of the floor. I'm everywhere on defense, and on offense, it's just, there's no fat, right? I'm getting to the spots where I know I can bang it from 18 feet from the free throw line. He's getting to the rim more often than he ever has. 40% of his shots are coming at the rim. He's just doing the things he's good at more often, and it's been a really great sight to behold. I think we're even seeing it in transition. I think there's been this sort of thing, going back to the Magic Johnson comparisons in his rookie year with Scottie in transition, where he sort of fancied himself a guy who just sort of picks out the right passes in transition and sets other guys up on the silver platter to score. And I think this year, and in particular last night in a couple of instances, he's just decided, you know what? I'm better at scoring in transition than everybody else on this team, and so I'm just going to do it my damn self more often. And the results have been fantastic. He is 14th in the league in total transition possessions, where he is the guy who has the usage on it, whether it's a shot or a turnover or free throws. 14th. He's in the 74th percentile in the entire league in points per possession in those situations, 1.24 points per possession on his looks in transition. He's just really, really good and powerful. And I think he's understanding his power and strength more than he ever has. And I think he also has teams a little bit spooked by the passing chops he brings to the table too. There was an instance last night where in transition, and yes, there was a situation where Pascal Siakam had foul trouble, and so he kind of made a business decision to get out of Scottie's way. But Scottie kind of had the entire Pacers defense pause in a semi-transition opportunity because he just took a little hesitation as though he might throw a pass to the corner or spray it out. And instead, no, little hezzy, and then throws down a two-handed dunk. It's just, again, a total awareness of the things he's good at and the way his decisions affect what's happening on the floor. And I'm just having so much fun watching Scottie Barnes. He's so obviously an all-star. If you're an NBA fan, if you're voting on this stuff and you don't think Scottie Barnes is an all-star, I'm sorry, you're doing it wrong. He is the best player, the most impactful player on a team that is 25-17, has home court in the Eastern Conference playoffs right now. He's been unbelievable. He should be a shoo-in for all defense on the short list for Defensive Player of the Year. And if you want to count out 15 players who've been more impactful for their teams as we sort out all NBA over the back half of the season, like, good luck. Like, I'm not sure you're going to get to 15 guys more impactful than Scottie Barnes. He's been incredible. We'll do the all-NBA propaganda campaign as the season closes. We'll worry about all-star right now, but like, so obviously an all-star. It should be a total 100% signed, sealed, delivered lock that he's there in LA. And I think he will be. He's going to be a coach's pick. He's going to be a guy that I think the media appreciates, the fan voting. I don't know what's going on there, but yeah, it just last night, 26 points, 13 assists, 7 boards, 2 steals, a block, a plus 14, 10 of 16, just like so refined, so efficient. So again, concise is a word I think I've been thinking about a lot with the way Scottie Barnes is playing and the types of possessions he's seeking out for himself and for others. He rocks so damn hard. And he was the biggest reason why they won last night and why they were able to hold on late. Yeah, they got some good shooting, timely shooting from Jamal Shead and Brandon Ingram. But the reason they were staked to such a lead to begin with was Scottie Barnes' just complete and total control of that game. What a player. We'll come back on the other side, talk about a guy who had himself just the best game I've seen from him in quite some time, maybe all year long. A guy who needs games like this to kind of get on a roll here. Gradey Dick, big swinging, out in full effect on Wednesday night. We'll talk about Gradey Dick's performance and the very interesting next couple of weeks / months for Gradey Dick as his place within this team, I think, could go all kinds of different directions based on how he hopefully builds on this or does not. We'll get to that coming up in just 1 second.
You know, I carry a lot of responsibility in my household. If something happened to me, there would be serious consequences. We have a mortgage, we got tuition, we got everyday bills. Those aren't going anywhere if something happens to me. And I know that's an overwhelming feeling, but I'm taking steps to protect my family by getting life insurance through Ethos. Ethos makes getting life insurance fast, easy, and 100% online. You can get a quote in seconds, apply in minutes, and get same-day coverage. There's no medical exam. You just answer a few simple health questions. You can get up to $3 million in coverage. Some policies are as low as $30 a month. And as of March 2025, Business Insider named Ethos the #1 no medical exam instant life insurance provider. Ethos has 4.8 out of 5 stars on Trustpilot with over 3,000 reviews. Protect your family with life insurance from Ethos now by going to ethos.com/LocdownNBA. In as little as 10 minutes, you can get your free quote and up to $3 million in coverage at ethos.com/LocdownNBA. That's ethos.com/LocdownNBA. Ethos.com/LocdownNBA. Application times and rates may vary.
Back at it here on your Thursday edition of Locked On Raptors. And before we get into talking about Gradey Dick's double-double, we are going to quickly remind you that the Locked On Raptors Everydayer Club is open and available for you to sign on up. And it's a lovely deal, if you ask me. You get for $50 a year or $5 a month. $50 a year is the way to do it because you get that annual subscription for a lower rate. You get ad-free episodes of this podcast every single day. This will also apply to the postcast episodes that will begin dropping after games immediately with Zulfi Sheikh and Dwayne Notice beginning this Sunday. If you haven't heard about that, very exciting times. Those will be ad-free for you on the feed as well. And you get access to the Locked On Discord, which is a great place. Come hang out and talk ball with people, and not just ball, the puck or oblong ball or whatever sport it is you care about. It's all in there in the Locked On Discord. Locked On listeners from across the globe hanging out, talking sports in a place where you're just talking about sports, baby. It's great. We'd love to see you become part of our listener community over on the Locked On Discord. And, of course, the Locked On Raptors Discord, the solo one that I've run myself for years, will stay free for everybody as well. So it's a win-win. Sign on up. You get bonus content as well. Season preview stuff, Locked On Sports Today, all that stuff is available among the many perks of signing up for the Everydayer Club. So please go do it. LockedOnPodcast.com/everydayer or LockedOnRaptors.supercast.com to sign on up and help me out. It's a really nice thing to do for me, please. We continue on here talking about Gradey Dick, who last night in a game where the Raptors badly needed someone off the bench to do something. You had 5 regulars out of the lineup, 3 starters missing, no Mamu, no Jacoby Walter. Just needed anyone off the bench to have some sort of pop, some extra juice in what they were bringing to the table than you typically would get to help support the starters. And of course, one of the starters in this game, Jamison Battle, didn't even finish the game. He left with an ankle sprain. That sucks for him. I thought he was pretty effective in this game. He was plus 24 in 20 minutes, which is crazy. But Gradey Dick had himself an excellent night, played down the stretch in crunch time, which was great to see. This is not something we've seen from Gradey Dick. We haven't had that trust from Darko Rajakovic for Gradey in late game situations very often, really at any time during Darko's time with the Raptors. It was a cool thing to see Gradey out there as the team tried to sort through that zone defense that the Pacers were throwing at them and trying to piece together enough defensive possessions to stay alive. They ultimately do it. And Gradey Dick, while he was more impactful in the first half than the second half, thought this was just like a really impressive game that showcases all the stuff, the whole, not just a shooter thing with Gradey Dick. It's really interesting because he continues to be really good at all of the things except for the thing he's supposed to be good at. It's wild, but this was a great showcase of his dynamism as an off-ball player, right? This was always his thing, the movement, the cutting, the understanding of when to seep into pockets of space. I thought he was brilliant in this game as an off-ball mover, as a screener. Him and Scottie Barnes, I can imagine this is exactly what Bobby Webster and Masai Ujiri at the time on draft night in the War Room 2023 imagined when they drafted Gradey Dick when it came to pairing him with Scottie Barnes. That two-man game was as good as it's looked at any point during Gradey Dick and Scottie Barnes' respective time playing together. And it was so much fun. The Gradey Dick screening for Scottie thing, more of that, please. This is a thing I wish they'd do more with Immanuel Quickley as well, to weaponize his shooting and to get Scottie moving downhill, is set a screen for Scottie Barnes with a guy who has legitimate gravity, and you are making the defense have to make serious decisions in real time and in those little pockets of time, in those little spaces, those gaps, those little breaths of dead air. Scottie Barnes is able to go and punch the defense and make things happen. Very much happened last night. And if he's not making something happen, there's an easy kick to the wing for Gradey Dick. And again, everything but the three-point shooting very much on display. Same in this game, 1 of 5 from downtown. I don't know what's going on with Gradey Dick's three-point shooting. The looks are good. The looks are coming in the flow. They're what you want him to be taking. They're not going down. The above the break threes in particular have been a huge issue, but you can't take too much issue when he's putting up 21 and grabbing 11 rebounds, including 4 offensive rebounds, dishing 3 assists. Just like a really tidy, efficient game. 21 points in 30 minutes for Gradey Dick. You'll take that all day long. And he just is I'm so fascinated by the future of Gradey Dick with this team, because again, we saw it last night. Gradey Dick was a small ball, short roll big in situations last night, and he was awesome at it. Getting the ball in the short roll, stepping into a jumper, driving for a finish on one of them. All very cool stuff. All stuff that this sort of, again, connective play, off-ball play, gravity, shifting the defense with your movements. This is all the stuff he's always been good at and sort of thrived with. It's just, it all falls a little more flat if the threes aren't falling. But I'm just so intrigued by what his future looks like with this team. He's had his 4th-year option picked up for next year. At this rate, I would be pretty stunned if he got an extension before next season, before the deadline, on the eve of the season that you get for those final those 3rd-year into 4th-year guys. I don't see that happening right now, considering the financial situation of the team. But that doesn't mean that they need to make a decision on Gradey Dick necessarily before the summer or this deadline. They can ride it out through the end of next year and see what happens. Maybe he pops more. Maybe he's more someone you're willing to invest in long-term for whatever amount his market value is going to be. This is also a team that has a lot of money on the books. They're up against the tax. There's talk of, will they try to duck the tax by trading Ochai Agbaji? There's also considerations for this summer with Mamu in particular. Mamu's been fantastic. If you want to keep Mamu, maybe the easiest way to do that is to find a way to offload Gradey Dick's salary and create a little bit of extra room under the tax, under the aprons, to give Mamu what he's probably going to command on the open market, which I would imagine is going to be close to the mid-level exception, if not the whole thing, based on his play this year. Probably a little below, maybe $8 to $10 million a year is a starting point for him. We'll see. But, Gradey makes $7 million next year. And when you are factoring in all these things, again, I have no idea where this is going to go, when you have the big swinging games like last night, it becomes so obvious that like, oh, this guy, like an optimized version of Gradey Dick on this team is so good, is so helpful, is so additive, is so complementary to the best players on this team. And like the numbers have bore it out all year. Like he has the best on-off differential of any regular on the team still, despite him seemingly not having made a three in weeks, and the sort of the turnover issues kind of rearing their ugly head again after it seemed like he kind of reined that in to start the season. But I don't know. It's just he's a very fascinating player. He's one of the most interesting guys to keep tabs on, I think, between now and the end of the season. His performance, like he's playing for his future with the Raptors, I think, in many ways. And if he plays like he did last night, like that's going to make it pretty easy for the Raptors to make the decision on what to do with him long term. He's gonna be a guy you want around as just a guy who can amplify the players around him. He hasn't done it enough this season. The threes have to fall at some point. He spoke after the game about the sort of adjustment to Brandon Ingram coming in and the way he's had to adapt his role. And part of last night did seem like, hey, like I'm more featured in the offense just because like there's no one available. Like no one's around me to sort of take shots away. And so maybe I can kind of get into a rhythm and a groove. Like part of being a good role player is kind of having the ability to kind of turn it on no matter the circumstances. And he's got to figure that out. Again, like he's just like the optimized version of like the gap between good Gradey Dick, big swinging, and bad Gradey Dick, Gradey Dink is so vast. It's such a wide chasm, and it's hard to sort out what the real version of Gradey Dick is. And again, if he can be a lot closer to the one last night, I think it becomes pretty clear. He's a guy you want around. He's someone who can be a very capable part of a bench unit, can spot start for you at times if you have injuries, stuff like that. Like that version of Gradey Dick is awesome and is a sort of idealization of all the things we thought Gradey Dick could be good at when he was drafted, all the stuff I'm imagining the Raptors probably saw in him, but we just haven't seen those nights enough, and that's what makes it so maddening. Again, he's doing all the stuff you'd want. He's improved as a defensive player to the point that he's adequate, that he creates events, that he's not getting totally torched and hammered by mismatches that teams are seeking out time and again down the floor. Maybe that changes in a playoff environment, for sure. I would imagine it would, but for now, he's holding his own defensively. He's doing the off-ball movement stuff. He's winning his minutes when he's out there. It's a tough thing to sort out because it sucks that the way the league is set up makes you have to consider every $7 million salary is a thing to sort of like really examine as to whether or not you can or should be paying it. That's the deal for Gradey Dick next season. I think on balance, what he's done over the whole of this season probably makes you a little squeamish and maybe leans towards, hey, maybe we find a way off this deal before, he goes from $5 million this year to $7 million next year, and the team is expensive and all of that, especially in the interest of trying to keep a Mamu or someone like that. But again, those tantalizing flashes of when Gradey Dick really has it, when it is full big swinging mode, they're tough to quit, right? Like you see a game like that last night and it's like, okay, like, yeah, let's ride this out a little bit longer to see if that can be strung together instead of one of every 5 nights you see that. Can it be 2 out of every 3 or 3 out of every 4? And if that's the case, then he's someone that I think you're more than happy to have around as a very complimentary piece to the best player on the team. Like I've always said, the lens through which everything the Raptors front office does right now has to be, does this work well with Scottie Barnes? I think that's even more amplified now that it's pretty clear he's on maybe the most valuable type of contract in the NBA, which is a max guy making the 25% max, giving you well more than that value, in terms of just his on-court production and play and impact. Like everything they do should be in the interest of complimenting Scottie Barnes. And the Gradey Dick we saw last night is about as good a compliment to Scottie Barnes as you can find. Pretty cool to see. Happy he did it. Hopefully he can build on it. And really impressive stuff. And yeah, more screen and dive Gradey. Sure, why not? Seems like a lot of fun. This lack of Jakob Poeltl is creating all sorts of fun, weird, machinations for how the Raptors deploy players in the nominal center role in various possessions. It's cool. We'll come back on the other side, close things out with the good, the bad, and the And we talked a lot about Scottie Barnes. There's one play that I want to play, a solo round of What Sound Did You Make, which is my favorite game usually to play with somebody else, but instead I'll just do automatopoeias by myself in my office. We'll do that coming up in just 1 second. Today's show is brought to you by Wayfair. The new year is here, and it's the perfect time to reset your routine and refresh your space. If you're spending more time at home, you might as well love how it looks and feels. That's why you should turn to Wayfair. It's a one-stop shop for getting your home back on track, from bedding and mattresses to storage solutions for every room. Wayfair makes it easy to start the year fresh. As you may have heard on this show before, we have a little baby at home, and he's crawling around and stuff, which means we have to kind of reimagine our space a little bit to baby-proof, because he's just getting into everything, and we're realizing, oh, that table's not very structurally sound. We probably replace that, and Wayfair is a place we can go to find great deals on the replacement furniture we're going to need to keep our place safe for the little guy. It is super easy. Delivery is smooth, and everything arrives exactly as expected. It makes getting back into a routine in the new year a lot more manageable to have a new, fresh space without it being a hassle to go and refresh that space. Get organized, refresh, and back on track this new year for way less. Head to wayfair.com right now to shop all things home. That's WAYFAIR.com. Wayfair, every style, every home. Wrapping things up here on your Thursday episode of Locked On Raptors. Yes, it's Thursday, and it is time for the good, the bad, and the It's the way we wrap up every single episode of this here podcast on the heels of a Toronto Raptor basketball game. Toronto Raptors basketball game? Yeah. Thing I liked, thing I didn't like, thing that's got me a little intrigued from the latest in Raptors hoops. The good for me is one specific bucket from Scottie Barnes, which was just nasty. In the fourth quarter, Scottie Barnes gets the ball in the post, sees a double team from Quentin Jackson and Pascal Siakam. And instead of passing out of it or having a turnover, he decides, no, I'm going to drop step my way out of this and into a totally uncontested finger roll. Extremely cool stuff. Again, another example of the evolution of Scottie Barnes, the craft, the counters, all of it. And now time for an impromptu game of what sound did you make? And the sound that I made when Scottie Barnes did that was a whoo, very high pitched. I think the dogs in the neighborhood could hear it. Yeah, really cool stuff, man. Scottie Barnes, pretty great. The bad, zone offense. It's just a thing, man. They're not good at scoring against zone. 8 points scored against 12 zone possessions per synergy last night. And it was extremely in doubt that the Raptors were going to get this one over the finish line in the fourth quarter, as they just went like 6 or 7 possessions in a row without getting anything against the Pacers zone. And it's frustrating because, I think they have ways out of it. In particular, Scottie Barnes and Murray-Boyles, I think, are both guys who you should be flowing things through at the nail. I thought this zone as well for the Pacers, it was kind of a loose zone. Like, the two guys up at the top were pretty high up. There were those pockets of space to flash to the middle and make stuff happen. We saw Scottie hit what was essentially the dagger in this game, if it wasn't already put away by then, at the free throw line, getting the pass and just kind of realizing, oh, there's no one around me. Okay, I'm just going to put up this shot that is apparently just total butter for me every time I put it up. That's a zone busting move they have. I think anytime you get Scottie Barnes middle of the floor, cutting off of that, they're getting good stuff. Elijah Martin got a couple free throws out of that same configuration as well. They just didn't do enough of getting the ball to Scottie in the middle of the zone last night. I think Murray-Boyles, again, someone I think is going to flash a lot as a zone buster from the inside out type of thing going forward too. Some of it's just guys who had been shooting well. Ochai Agbaji started off hot in this game, couldn't hit a damn thing by the end. Jamal Shead obviously hit the massive three with about 4.5 minutes left to put it, I think, back up to 7 when it was cut down to 4 at one point. That was huge. And then Brandon Ingram hit the 3 after that. The 2 threes after that, not against zone. They were one was a man-to-man possession, one was in transition. But the zone busting 3 from Jamal Shead was a big deal. But yeah, just a really sort of stagnant effort once again against the zone. I thought Brandon Ingram in particular just didn't do enough to punch the gaps in the zone and held onto the ball a little bit too long. They're just I think they need to figure out and sort of reassess what they're doing, because the numbers are just not very good. They are the 5th worst team in the NBA against zone per synergy, and they see it the 8th most often of any team. Teams know, hey, if we zone up the Raptors, we can probably get them off their game a little bit. We can sort of muck things up and, get back into games. And part of this is just they're not a great shooting team, and they're especially in a slump right now. But I think they have cranks and levers at their disposal weaponizing the interior passing they have, weaponizing guys like Scottie and Colin Murray-Boyles, who I think can make stuff happen from the middle of the zone that they just didn't quite get to enough last night. And would like to see that change. And the for me is just want to squash something before it becomes a thing. And I don't want this to sound as though I am in any way disparaging Jamal Shead, who I love, is a fantastic player, one of the most likable players I can recall being on the Toronto Raptors. But no, the Toronto Raptors should not start Jamal Shead over Immanuel Quickley because they had a nice half of offensive basketball against the Indiana Pacers without Quickley. Look, Shead's a really great organizer. He has point guard brain to a greater degree that IQ does. This is clear, but come on. IQ is just a better player, more productive, more skilled, who fits with the team's best guys and still wins his minutes pretty significantly when he's on the floor. We've jumped the shark, I think, on the IQ hate train. The contract has just become this sort of number that no one can get over. And look, he hasn't played great of late. The three-point shooting has been in a real down spell. Still of the full belief that he's going to have a stretch where he just doesn't miss for a couple of weeks and it's going to get right back up to normal. That's how these things go. And I think we just saw late, right? Jamal Shead, for all of the good he brings, he just doesn't quite have the offensive juice when you really need it late in games. And when things got hairy, he's not a guard who can shoulder a scoring load or a self-creation load when it really matters. He missed a floater. He had the one other floater where he was trying to bait a foul and just kind of missed it. The three went down. That was fantastic. Really glad he hit it. It was huge, but your lead guard has 7 points on 2 of 9 shooting. This is not to say that what he's always doing, but he's not the most efficient guy in the world. His value is derived from things other than pure scoring efficiency. And even with the issues that Immanuel Quickley has, he's just a better, more productive and way better shooter, obviously, but just a better basketball player. And that's fine. You can have 2 good guards. There can be moments where both guys close together for sure. But the idea that Quickley should lose his starting job to Shead because he's not your quote unquote true point guard when he's just a better guard, whatever. Again, the distinction of guard, point guard, combo guard, it's all gobbledygook today anyway. There aren't really any true point guards left in the NBA. And to the extent that Jamal Shead is one, yeah, totally. He is your classic, table setting, organizing point guard. Davion Mitchell was also that last year, and I was very mad that he was starting all season long, and the Raptors lost their minutes by a ton because he was starting, because he just didn't have when he was starting, because he just didn't have the offensive juice to give them enough from that spot. You need to have offensive juice from your lead guard spot, and while it'd be nice if Immanuel Quickley offered more offensive juice than he currently does, he still offers a lot more than Jamal Shead, and I just think, again, I'm not saying this is a widespread opinion. The online discourse of the team is different than the general normal fan, all of that. But it does seem as though there's this sort of burgeoning, well, Quickley's not a point guard, so Shead's to start over him. You want to see your zone offense dry up even more? Have Jamal Shead carrying most of the minutes over Immanuel Quickley. It's silly to me. Again, nothing against Jamal Shead. He's awesome in the role he's in, but I think we saw last night, as much as Immanuel Quickley is overextended in the lead guard role, I think you could argue that in the moments where Jamal Shead has been in that role this season, he's been even more overextended because he just is a less naturally gifted offensive player, which is fine. He does a lot of other great things that we love. He can close plenty of games, but the idea of starting him over Quickley, it just put it to bed. Also, it's just not going to happen because it's just not how things work. It's the human nature thing of you're going to bench your $32 million point guard and keep the vibes copacetic. Probably not. There's all this sort of personal stuff to manage as well, but just the pure basketball argument, I don't think it's there either. But that'll do it. We'll leave it there. Thank you so much for rocking with the show. We'll be back again on Friday with Katie Heindel, who will be along. We'll talk about something. I don't really know what we're going to get into yet, but it's a Friday episode with Katie. We'll have some fun. We'll dig into something probably broad, deep, thoughtful, etc. The Katie special, you have that to look forward to. And we will leave it there for now. Follow, subscribe, rate, review, tell a friend, join the Discord, link in the description of the podcast, and of course, sign on up for the Locked On Raptors Everydayer Club. $5 a month, $50 for the year gets you ad-free access to the show. And it's in your feed. It just works the exact same as your regular feed. You just take the RSS feed, drop it into your regular app, and you will get those ad-free episodes. And the step-by-step on how to do it is all laid out for you very easily when you sign up. So please go do it. I would very much appreciate it. It helps me out big time, and it's a big support to me. And of course, look ahead this Sunday with the debut of the Locked On Raptors postcast with Zulfi Shake and Dwayne Notice. Looking forward to that. Those guys are going to be with you after every single Raptors game, immediately following the buzzer, live on YouTube on this channel, breaking down the game as it has just happened, fresh, raw reaction. And then my show, still the same, the next day. We'll dig into it all as we usually do. So that one starts on Sunday, and after every Raptors game thereafter, Zulfi and Dwayne with the Raptors postcast. So you have that to look forward to. We will leave it there. Thank you so much. Have yourself a wonderful rest of your day. Talk to you on Friday. Don't hurt your back shoveling or whatever, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye. I think that hit mesh, but not in the mesh.